Welcome back, everyone. In this week's video, what we're going to talk about is inheritance, and inheritance specifically for C#. And you probably, if you've done Java, maybe C++, or even other languages, you're probably familiar with inheritance. It's not very complicated. It's actually modeled or based on how nature works itself. So that's why it's actually called inheritance, because living things inherit from other living things. Same sort of thing with object-oriented programming. And so what I want to do is really kind of glaze over this. I'll go through a little bit of PowerPoint, not too much, and then I want to get into more coding examples. And hopefully this won't be one of my typical marathon length videos. I hope that this one will be nice and short. What we have here on this slide is really just a very rough overview of how this all works. And an interesting thing about this is the way that these boxes are illustrated in this particular slide is very similar to something that we do in software a lot called UML, Unified Modeling Language. And it typically starts off with your data types and then your methods. And this is no exception the way this is presented. And what we have up here is referred to as our base class. Okay, this is really the origin. Okay, and public properties and methods are in here. This is all public stuff. Okay, and look, if you look here, sort of what is the level of abstraction that we're talking about? We're talking about really the form itself. So the very first open generic form, no description, no nothing, just very generic. This is our base class. Okay, so this is just the plain old vanilla form. The first time you open it up, it's really consists of these few things here. Okay, that's the little maximize box and the minimize box and the close and the show and maybe one little dialog box. That's all that's really in that first level. And then we go down and we've got product maintenance or form new product. Okay, and this inherits properties and methods. Okay, and you can see that what we have here, these three things are the same as this. Notice here, these three things are also the same as this. Okay, so when we talk about inheritance, what we're saying is, obviously, take all this stuff here and give the next class that you want all of the same exact properties. So you would hate to have a base class in there, but still need to go in your derived class or your next class and code all this stuff in here on top of the stuff that you're really trying to do. Okay, so by doing inheritance, we're actually able to create a new derived class, but assume all of the properties, all the characteristics from the base class. Okay, and if you look at it from a human being perspective, you inherit characteristics from your family. You're not born as a brand new human with no other characteristics from any other parent or grandparent or great grandparent, right? You actually inherit all of those qualities. And so this is the same sort of thing in software. And you can see here in terms of what we've been doing in C#, building out these forms and stuff like that. And that we've got buttons. We typically use buttons, right? And which is really just derived from our button base class. And that base class actually is derived back from controls. Okay, so these are all just one level up. Okay, this combo box is derived from list control, which is then derived from controls. Okay, so these are just what we refer to as levels of abstraction. Okay, and if you look at this one here, scrollable control, that's that little scroll button on the side, right? This derives from container control, from scrollable control, and then back to control and object, right? And so you can see that this is a namespace. This is a forms namespace, which is coming from here. So we can sort of trace the family tree. Okay, that's really what this is. This is just meant to be a family tree. Okay. Last time what we did is we created this book product maintenance. Okay, and we have this additional form here, and it's just for the code, the description, and the price, and save. So I've already got one in there. This time I could say C++. It's a book and a price of, let's say, $60. Okay, we save this, and now we're just adding it. And so what I want to do next today is, again, I'm going to follow in the Murak book, but what I want to do is create something with two forms. One is going to be software, one is going to be a book. Okay, and so we've got to make some changes to this. And I want to use inheritance to do all of this work. Okay. If you focus your attention right now to the top, you see that we can set up a new situation where we have our product. Okay, and the product has code, description, and price, just like what I did a minute ago when I input that information. And there's this get display text, which is a string. And if you branch off into the two sort of child classes, if we're going to say that product is the parent class or even the base class, we could say that it can branch off and inherit the same properties or attributes as the parent class. And what we have is code, description, price, and get display text. Okay, and that happens in both of these child classes. But there is one difference in the fact that we now have string author and string version, right? So if we're talking about a book, who's the author? If we're talking about a software, what is the actual version to that software? And so instead of having to duplicate all of this code here, we simply just inherit those four attributes of the parent class. And then we add the additional one that we want. We want to add that one characteristic that makes it different than the parent class. Okay. And that's really what we're doing. We're doing a lot of code efficiency or code reuse. We're just doing it through levels of abstraction. The second inheritance hierarchy is showing that we can use the .NET class as the base class for your own classes. So I can use the .NET class right here as the base class for my own class down here. And product list class inherits this system collections generic.list products class. So the product list class has all of the features of this one here. And it's got the index, it's got the add, it's got the remove. Okay, so it has all of those. However, the product list class provides its own add method here. Okay, and it can use this one instead of this one. You can see that they're written identically. And what's great is product list class could, if it wanted to, use this one, but it can also use this one and not this one if it chooses to. And that's just in case the way the original add method is written. If it doesn't work for you, then you can rewrite it yourself and have your own implementation of the add method. And of course, these two methods here, the void fill and the void save, these don't exist in the base class, right? They have all of these same characteristics, but they don't have fill or save. So we can take everything from above plus implement our own. And that's really the strength of inheritance. What I want to do now is go into my code and make some modifications. And so if this product is going to be my base class, in the code already, this file this class does already exist, but I want to make it so that I can actually inherit from it. And I want book and software to both be able to inherit from it. And so I'm going to go into the code, make some modifications to it, rewrite my product class, and I'm going to use something called a virtual modifier, a virtual access modifier. And so if I look at the actual code, the way I want to modify the code, what you're going to see is a drastic change to my get and my set. But you're going to see this virtual keyword here. And the reason I do that is because I'm going to want to override this method from my derived classes. And if we look back here, you can see that I've got the same methods right here. Okay, and I'm going to want to be able to override this one here. And so that's why I use the virtual keyword. This allows me to do that overriding. So I'm back in my Visual Studio, and what I'm going to do is actually change this. I've got book product maintenance, but if we're going to update it to now allow software, it should just be product maintenance. So if I right click on this and I go to rename, and I just remove the word book and hit enter, that should do an actual update on it. Okay, and let me test this out. I'm going to save all, and I'm actually going to rebuild it. So that seems to work okay. And I have a couple of things I do need to change. One is in my properties. Okay, and this is not going to be book product anymore. So I can take that out, update that, and I believe I have one more that I need to change. And this one here shouldn't say form new product. This one should just say new product. Done. But in this particular one, now I need to make some modifications to this form. So I'm going to just make it slightly bigger. In fact, yeah, I'm going to make this one about 278, 280. Let's go for 280 by, I think that width is fine. And I guess what I can do is just highlight everything and then use my down arrow. I just want to move everything down. Okay, and I think I'll just eyeball it and center it a little bit better. And now I want to add two radio buttons. So this first one I'm going to add up here. I guess I can eyeball it right there. And I'm going to name this one to RB book. Okay, and the label on there, or the text, is going to be, sorry, right here. Text is going to be book. And this one I'm actually going to set to, I believe, true for checked. So when I go alphabetically and I've got this on here, I'm looking for checked. And it's right there, and I'm going to change that to true. I can just double click on that and set it to true. Now I'm going to take this, copy and paste it, move it over here, and now I'm going to change the labeling on that, but I don't want it to be checked. I want it to be set to false, because I don't want that one checked. I want the default one to be book. And so this isn't going to be radio button 1. It's going to be RB book. Okay. Sorry, not book, software. Okay, I'm going to take software, take that down here to text, and change that. Now there's one more modification that I do need to make here. So again, I'm going to move this down. And I'm going to go to this whole section here, copy both of those, copy and paste. I'm going to move it just below. Okay, and I'm going to make some modifications to this. So this description is not going to be description, this label 1. And I do need to change this. Okay, so this is going to be LBL author. Okay. In fact, I'm going to be making changes to this. So it's going to be label it'll be LBL author or version. Okay, so try to keep up with what I'm doing here. This label is actually going to change. And in a moment, I'm going to show you that change. Okay, so when I go to text, I've got description now, and this text is actually going to change as well. Okay, so that text is going to be, for now, is just going to be author. Okay, so instead of description, author. Okay. So let's just have a real quick look at how that looks. So here it is on the window, and if I do add product, let's see what happens. Okay, so a little bit of tweaking that we could do in here, right? Just to make it look a little more neater. So I'll just go back to here and just really push it down a little bit more so they're not so bunched up. Now, let me show you what this is actually going to look like now. So what's going to happen is this product maintenance box is going to open up, and I'm going to select add product. And I've got two options. I've got book, I can type in book, or I can select software, which either one I want. And this is why when I was talking about this particular label right here, it says author for now because it's a book. But when I click on software, it actually switches over to version. Okay, and you can see that again back to author with the book and software to version. Okay, and so that's what's going to happen there. And of course we can delete and exit and all that stuff. So a continuation really of last week. But what I want to do is do this through inheritance this time. And what I want to do is actually open up my product class, and I want to make some minor adjustments in here. And so for the most part, I'm actually going to leave this alone. I'm going to leave my constructor alone. I'm going to make some changes down here. And for the most part, I really don't need these anymore. Okay, so I'm going to take these out, and you'll notice that they're actually set to private. Okay, so if I want to do inheritance, that may complicate things, but in all honesty, I don't need this code right here, right now. So I'm going to take that out, move everything up, Control KD to reformat everything. And notice now that I'm getting several of these errors, and that's perfectly okay, because I'm actually going to redo all of those as well. And the way I'm going to actually do this, believe it or not, is I'm going to delete all of this, and I'm actually going to just realign everything, and I'm going to do a semicolon and then go get my set function. Okay, you can see it showing up there. And this is something that's going to actually be a regular occurrence, especially if you're doing .NET programming for web development. You'll see this syntax. Okay, this is kind of how we handle our getters and setters. And I can even bring it up to this line. Now, typically, I really like to have all of my code spaced out like you see from lines 21 to 31. But for these getters and setters in the .NET framework, we really don't need to do that. So I can actually take this and basically delete all that and add that on to description. And I can do the same thing down here. I can delete all this and go to my price and add the same thing. And you can see that those errors have gone away, with the exception of the fact that down below, I've got these two other methods and they're complaining. Okay, they don't really like what's going on. That's okay, because I am going to go in and make some changes to these. But first I still need to clean this up. Okay. And again, Control KD just to make sure my formatting is nice and neat. And right now I'm going to just get rid of this one. I don't need it. Don't need this particular method at all. So let me move that up so you can see what's going on. Now in this particular method call here, this get display text, remember what I said from the PowerPoint is that I want to make this virtual, and I'm just going to add the keyword virtual right here, string. Nothing else is really changing here, except now I'm going to add this thing called a lambda. All right. And what it allows me to do is modify this code. If you have access to the Murac slides or the actual Murac book, then I suggest you do go have a look in chapter 13, and it'll talk about anonymous methods, delegates, and lambda functions. But it's kind of outside of the scope of what I want to do today, so I'd rather really stick to the code piece, but have a look through that. And I think it's on page 442 in the book where it talks about these anonymous methods and lambda expressions with delegates and events. Okay, so have a look at that if you really, really want to. I'm sure there's a Google search or something like that, or even YouTube, that'll talk specifically about lambdas. But what I want to do is get back to the code and just show you how I'm going to use it. And so what I want to do is just give a little bit more explanation, because if you haven't seen this kind of a syntax before, you may be thinking, that's very confusing to me, I don't quite understand. And that's okay. If you look at our constructor, we have 3 arguments within our constructor, and we are taking this code one here that you can see right here. It's a capital C, and we're passing in whatever argument through this product constructor. Okay, so whatever the user types in for code is going to be put into here and then initializes this. So the product itself, the object that's created, will now be whatever is passed through from the user. So you saw before when I typed in C# or I typed in C++, that became the object that I was now passing through. So it sets that up. And what you can see here is the way we've written this is the shorthand or simplified version of getting and setting those values that the user is inputting. So when we get down to this virtual string get display text, we're using this lambda, and in fact, we don't even need to have the brackets. That's one more thing we can get rid of with the brackets. And it's just because of the way the parameter list is. But again, I do encourage you to go look up a lambda if you really need to. And we're getting all these errors because, for one, we don't need the return type. Okay, so we can get rid of the return type right away. But the issue is, I'm getting and I'm setting. So I'm initializing these values, this code here. But you can see down here, I've got it as a lowercase. So by doing it as a lowercase, I would, in essence, be bypassing all of this section of code here. And I don't want to bypass that. I want it to go into here. And then I want the value for the code, the actual current object code, to retain the value. So I'm just simply going to change that to capitalize. Okay. And that's going to be price. And the final one will be description. And you can see all of those errors now are clearing. And so ultimately what we have now is our product class. Okay. And even this one here probably needs to be renamed. So what happens now if I just take book product maintenance? What happens if I take that out of there? Okay, I'm going to save this and let's go see what our error list gives us. Okay, so if you look at the error list, it actually starts to create a whole bunch of errors for us. And that's okay because we can fix that as soon as I reset it back. Okay. Let me just move that a little bit so we can go and have a look. You can see all of these different references, right, have now been changed. So I've got a reference to it in product database in this form, in this form, in this form, but ultimately they're the same. So what I'm going to do is actually pause the video, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to make all of those updates and clear out all those errors, because now I have 15 just because I've changed that. Okay, so let me go clean that up for you. And I'll show you the very first one that I'm going to do. So all I've done is literally just double clicked on the error. The file itself opened up. Let's go to the next one, form new product. Let's click on that and just change this up here. Take out book. Okay. And I'll go clean those up for you. Okay. So all of those errors are gone. And the reason I'm doing this is because I don't want it to be book product maintenance, right? What I'm after is more the generic version of this. And this particular class is our product class. So this is something that we're going to be inheriting from. What I'd like to do right now is select this add product. And when I click these two radio buttons, I'd like for this label to actually update. Okay, so I'm going to go and do that right now. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm actually going to go into my new product form. So right here. And if what's a good way to do this? I'll open up this. Okay, so I'm inside this file right here. And you can see really nothing is changed. I don't really want to change anything other than this one issue, right? So let me just keep all my forms and my files. And so what I want to do is add that. So from last week when we worked on it, nothing has changed. All I'm going to do now is add this RB book checked changed. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do with this particular one. And the way I'm going to do this, and what did we call it? Okay, we called this RB book. Okay, that's what we called it. So radio button book. And how I can do this is I can say, just do an if statement. So if my RB, and you can see it'll show up, RB book dot checked. Okay, if it's checked, then what? This is where we can then just make these label changes. So if we say LBL and you see author or version dot text is going to be equal to author. Okay. Let me put the semicolon in there and, or the colon, sorry. And that's not the only place I'm going to do this. I actually have to update this with its tag. Now remember last time we talked about tag a little bit as well. So txt, and it is author or version dot tag. Now you can see that I don't actually have that text. So I actually now should go in and update that text. And this is what I'm talking about here. When I go to this text box here, you can see that up above, I didn't change it from text box 1. So this is going to be text author or version. And what about the tag? What do we need to do with the tag? Okay, because that's going to have to change as well. We've got tag down here, and I'm going to change this to author. Okay, just going to change my tag to author. So let's go back to the code here. And the next thing I want to do now is my .text dot, it should be text author. Okay, let's start over so the IntelliSense gets it. txt, and now you can see author or version. And this is going to be tag now. Okay, so my tag is going to change to author. and I want them to be the same. That's why I'm going to copy and paste. And so if we do an if, we're going to do an else. And sorry, I like to put them in the separate lines. And the same thing is going to be here. I'm just going to copy all this and then make the appropriate modifications. So this shouldn't be author. This should now be version. Okay. And so that's the way that that is. And then the last thing I want to do is change my focus. So txt, and I want code. I want the code to be the dot focus. Okay. And that's all I really want to do to that for now. And I've still got my save, my cancel, everything. And just to be kind of neat, what I think I will do, and when I say neat, I mean as in tidy, I'm going to move this above my save button. I'm going to move that into this space. And the way I do that is I select Alt and the up arrow. And I'll just move it all above save. Okay. Move it one more space. Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. Let's go test this out and see if it works. So if I add product, and you can see it says book is matched up with author, but if I change it to software, you can see that the version actually changed. So back and forth, software and author. Okay, so that's good. Remember what I said now is that I want to create this product class, and then I want to do the inheritance from it. So now I need to go in and actually make two separate classes, book and software. And then I'm going to inherit from product. And hopefully by the end of this, we're also going to modify our product to make sure that we're actually inheriting a product list. Okay, so let's get back into the code. Now, like I said before, if you've done Java, this is probably almost identical to what you've already done. And you can see here, I've got my public class product. Okay, and that's it. And this is going to be our base class. Okay, this is what we're going to derive from. And so if I go over to my project here in my Solution Explorer and I right click and I go to add, and I want to add a class. And this class is going to be called book, and it's going to be singular. So book. Okay, I don't even have to worry about the file extension. So I'm going to do book. And unfortunately, what's happening here is that because I didn't change the solution name, I'm going to get this book product maintenance. So what I'm going to do here is just clean this up, and I'm going to have to deal with this all throughout the rest of the program probably, but that's okay. It's a minor issue. So let's take book and product and let's just move them together. And so the overall intent of what I'm trying to do is take everything that product has, every property, every method, everything. And I want to give the same exact capability to my book. And the one and only easy way that we do this is we just add a semicolon here and we type in product. Okay, there's one more thing I need to do, but just by virtue of doing that, you can see what's happening. Okay, that this is class product maintenance.product. Okay, and so just by doing this, performing this little semicolon with the product, everything that's in here is now in here. The capability exists to do the same. So if this was, we were talking about an animal and we had a method in here that said walk, okay, then this object in here, this class, would also have the ability to walk. Okay, and if you refer back to one of my very first videos, I talk about objects and instantiating objects. I think the example was the 3D printer with the dog, and it could, bark. Same sort of thing. If I have just a dog and then I say German Shepherd or I say Shih Tzu, both of them will have the ability to bark. Okay. But there's one more thing I need to add to this. I actually need to make this public. Okay, it has to be set to public right now, especially for our uses because we want to actually use the book. All right, now what do we have inside our class? Let's go look at product. Product right away we know had a no argument constructor. And so it stands to reason that, you know, book is also going to have a no argument constructor, but it's also going to have one with some arguments. Okay, so let's go back in and just start coding this out. And so right away with our no argument constructor, we're going to say public, and it's going to just be book. Okay, and that's it. And we just have to add, because we don't have anything that we can keep it to one line. But now we want to go and look at actually implementing a constructor with arguments in it. So this is public again, and we'll call it book. And in here, we were going to have a longer parameter list. Okay, so we're going to have string, and it's going to be lowercase code, comma, string, lowercase description, comma, and string author. Okay, string, this one is going to be string author. Okay, and one more thing is going to be decimal price. Okay, and I hope that it's clear to you why I'm putting in the author. Okay, because we look at product, we've got code, description, price, but book in our form actually has an author, and software is going to have a version. So when we go to here, I need to account for my author. I have to make sure that that's in there. Now, there's one more thing that I have to do with this, and it's just to announce or implement, or let's say use or access, however you want to do it, the base class variables or attributes. So we're going to say base, and then in here, we're just going to type in code, description, and price. Okay, and that's all I'm going to do. Now, the next thing I have to do for this, though, is put in our brackets, and that'll make the error clear. But now I have to deal with the author. And so if we look back at product, right, we did this idea here, this dot code equals code, right? Well, I've got to do the exact same thing here. So this dot author, is it in the list? No, it's not in the list because I'm capitalizing it. Author is going to be equal to author. Okay. And so I've got to set that parameter because I want to next do a getter. Okay, what doesn't it like? I know what it doesn't like. So what we can do is just highlight it and read what the note says. Book does not contain a definition for author, and no accessible extension method author accepting a first argument, blah, blah, blah. Ultimately, what we're really interested in here is show potential fix. And it's a read only. No, I don't want read only. Do I want generate this property? I don't, because it's a private set. Do I want this one? Not really. Do I want this one? No. So the closest one I really do want is actually this. The only difference is I'm going to take out private. I don't need to set that to private. Okay. So that was really the next thing we had to do in the list, and it prompts you for that information anyway. Okay. So the next thing we got to do is let's go back to product, and we're looking at this method here, right? This get display text. And I have virtual. And the reason I have virtual is because I want my book to be able to access that. Okay, I want to be able to access that, but I also want to have my own version of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take everything in here. I'm going to copy it because I know how much you hate watching me type. I'm going to paste it in there, and I'm going to make some modifications to it because I'm inheriting. I don't want to be virtual. What I want to do is say override. And you can see the keyword comes up, override string. Same exact code in there, except in here, I'm going to be making some big changes. What I want to do is say base dot get, and you can see it shows up, get display text, and it'll be sep. Okay, and then we're just going to do a little bit of concatenation. I want this quotation, and then in here I want to change this to actually say in quotation again. Inside those quotations I need space plus author. Okay, and then a space with a plus, just like that. And it's logical, believe it or not, to have the extra spaces with the quotations. Okay, so I want that to be there. All right, what do we do next? First off, I'm going to save everything. Now, take a guess on what we're going to do next. If you haven't figured it out, let me give you a hint. Right now, I have a class called a base class called product. I've got a base class called book, but what does my form call for? It's actually calling for software, right? So what this means is now I got to go back into here and say, give me a new, add me another class, and this one is going to be called software. Okay, enter. And you see that it shows up in here. It's right there, software. Take this book word out of there so it doesn't screw things up for us. And what is software really going to look like? Okay, software is going to be almost identical to the other one. It's almost going to be identical with a few exceptions. So what I can do, and what I'm going to do, is I'm going to take this whole entire thing and then make some edits. So I'm going to say copy, go to software. I'm going to grab it all, paste it all in there. And of course, it's going to complain because book already defines a member called book. Okay, obviously. And what I want though is software. Okay, and I'm going to just go change that word everywhere I can. Here. It's not the only place that I need to change. Okay, but so far I'm getting my product inherited, my base, all that stuff is done, but I don't want author. What I want is version. Okay, so I'm going to get this word, copy it, copy here, capitalize version. Okay, and then down here, copy. This should say version. But this one's going to be slightly modified. Okay, and let's go to here. And it'll clear the error up on line 9. This last one, though, I need to make a slight modification to it. And we're going to say plus, let's see, how do we do this? Instead of this bracket, I'm actually going to, let's just start over. It'll be too confusing to do it any other way. So I'm going to say plus, and then a quotation, a comma, version. Okay, give it a little bit of a space, and then just concatenate it again, version, there. And then of course a semicolon. So what have I got done here? What I have exactly the same thing. And now at this point, I have two different classes that have been derived from product. Next thing I want to do is talk about the validator. Okay, because if we go back to our actual form, we're validating what's happening inside these other boxes. But we now have to go and address it within author. So if I go to validator, you can see that I'm only actually validating is present, which is addressing some text. some end-line stuff, some decimal stuff. So there's not a lot going on in there, but where I do need to call that is in another file. So if I close that down and I go to my new product form, and I'll just open up this here. So back in here again, notice that we've got some stuff going on. We're validating the code text, the description text, and the price text. And so now what I have to do is actually validate this new either author or version. And because we put the tag in there, we've kind of handled that situation. Now what we're going to do is I'm just going to copy that entire line, paste it, and it's my text now is going to change. So let's take this out, txt, and you can see that I've got this author or version. And so I'm going to actually get this author or version, copy, change my text here. Okay, so that's really all I need to do in that area there. I've got to just change the text and change the tag. Okay, and I don't believe I have any other places that I want to do this other than, actually, I do have another place to do this. In here, I need to address the save, right? Because we have every intention of once we type in the author or the version, we still want to be able to save that. And so in here, what I'm going to do is add another condition. And the condition is based off of whether the radio button is actually checked. So if I go into here and I do if RB, we'll say book dot checked. Okay, then what happens? And so we'll still keep the product. Product isn't going to change. Nothing's going to change there. And we're going to say new book now. Okay, in this particular case. So we don't want it to say now new product. We actually want it to say new book. So we're going to change this to book. And what else needs to change inside here? So there's more information inside here that's going to we need to change. So text we want to keep, description we want to keep. We still want to convert to decimal. And so all of that stuff there. The only thing that we have to actually do now is add our, let me add in another comma here so that I get space. We have to add txt author or version dot tx text. Okay, so that's what we have to add inside there. We're not entirely done yet, right? Because we now have an else. So we've got the if. Well, let's do the else. And what happens in our else is we're going to now copy this whole entire line, move that down, and it's not book now, it's software. Okay, so software, there it is. And so the software is that way, and everything else is actually the same. So what I'm saying now is if I have valid data, good, move on to the next condition. And if I've checked my radio button for book, then I want you to save this particular object. Okay, in this book object, put that into my product. And that now represents the entire product. Okay, and vice versa, or likewise, if it's not checked, then I want you to go and save the software object and then initialize product to everything on this right hand side. Okay, so nothing too drastic on there. It's just you have to check for that particular condition, right? So let me go ahead and now save that. I'm going to do a build. Every once in a while, I like to just do a build. Looks like it went okay. And we'll start without debugging, see if we have an issue. So add product. I'm going to do software. Okay. I don't know even what an example is going to be. C++, just C. Okay. This is a program, and my version is actually going to be v1.0. Let's see if it picks up text or what that's going to be all about, and we'll say, I don't know, $15. Okay, we're going to save that, and you see that it showed up there. Okay, and let's try one more. Let's try book. Okay, Python. Blah, blah, blah. And the author is going to be Tom. The price for this book is going to be $1 million, or whatever this number is. Save. Okay, good. It's all there. Now, let me close that. And this is one thing I want to highlight. Notice here that the author of the book was Tom, but the version number here was not actually put in brackets or anything like that. So you're seeing the output is a little bit different. And that is based off of really the way we did this. Okay, we said version, we want the version to show. And then in books, we want the author to show. Okay, so that's really all we've done with that. Let me exit that and see if the data actually persisted. And you can see that it actually persisted. So it's still being stored in the database. Okay, so let me delete this last one, delete the product. Are you sure you want to delete whatever that says? Yes. Do I want to? That's interesting. Something funny just happened there. Let me delete this. Are you sure you want to delete this? Are you okay? So there's some spelling mistakes in there. Let me add that again, okay? Because I noticed that there was something kind of funny going on in there. What did I say software was? C, some code version. I'm gonna say version 2. $10. Save. Okay, so that's in there now, and I'm gonna add a book. Python. A book. I hit the cap lock. Author is going to be Tom M. Price is going to be $12. $12.52. So I'm going to save that. Okay, so everything looks like it worked okay, but let's say some code version v2. Okay, and I'm going to delete this. Are you sure you want to delete a book? Yep, I do. Yes. All right. Are you, let's delete this, some code version 2. Are you sure you want to delete some code? Yes. Okay, so it all seems to work okay to me. What else can we do with this though? So the next thing I want to do is actually make a splash page. So if I go ahead and I run this, and we get this page that is the first thing that actually shows up. Okay, we launch right into our application. And so what I want to do is actually go and dress that up a little bit. Okay, and with this thing called a splash page, because not many applications just open up and instantly go to the application itself. So that's what I want to do, is build this splash page, something that comes up, tells your user that, yep, your program is starting, and then launches into it. So I closed everything out, but I want to actually open up my program. Okay, and what you can see here is that my first, my form product maintenance, this is the first thing that opens. Okay, so this is what really this shows us, right? And this whole form is an object, right? It's from a class, and it's an object that gets instantiated from this point, okay? And so if we look at, say, the code in here, let's go to the top. What you can see is that this gets initialized. That's the initial component that actually starts up, okay? And are there any other things in here that I'm really interested in showing right now? Not really, because what I want to do is almost make this other form pop up. That's going to be our splash page, okay? So what I'm really going to do is just go up to here and say, right click on this and say add new, will it give me a form? A Windows form. That's all I'm going to do. And we're going to call this splash form. That's all. Okay, and add. That's all I get. Okay, so now that I've got my form open, I'll go to properties. And the first thing I want to do is put this to the center screen. All right, so when it opens up, it'll be center screen. And for the time being, I think that's probably a little bit too big. Okay, and then the other thing I want to do is actually make this borderless. Okay, so you can see it's got this border around it. And if I click on it, I can go to form border style. I can select all these different ones. I can say sizable to window, tool window, fixed tool window, sizable, fixed dialog, fixed 3D. Let's, you can see that there's a total change in its appearance there. I hope it shows up on the screen. But what I actually want for this is none. I don't want there to be any border at all. So I'm going to go and I'm going to put a label on there. Okay, so put that in the middle. And oops, see? Even I do it. That's not what I wanted to do. That's okay. I'll leave it alone for now. I'll come back. And what do we want to change it to? So this is a label. LBL welcome. Okay, and text. I'm just going to put the text down here to say literally just welcome. What about font size? Okay, because that's a little bit too small for me. I can go to what can I do? 36? Is that a good size label? I don't know. 50? Let's just try 50. It doesn't really matter. Okay. Actually, I'm just going to do a little bit of extra editing. What do I think about that? Is there any way to, I think I can open these up. I can create this. There's a little, I forget what they call the little drop downs. Anyway, I can do bold, oblique. I can change whatever font I want. I can do an underline, but I don't want an underline. Script, I don't really know, and I definitely don't care. But can I go to 72? Will that be too big? No, even 72 is fine. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball that in the middle. Is there anything I can do for padding, size, index, text align? Let's go right in the middle. Okay, see if that works. I don't know that it changed anything. Okay. What else can I do with this? Now, what I do want it to do is when it opens up, I want it to open up for 3 seconds. And that's all I want it to do. So I can do one of two things. I can go up to this search box right at the top of toolbar and say timer. I can do it that way. Okay, that's one way I could do it. Or I can go, that's into components and down the bottom, and I can do timer this way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually just click and drag it to here. And you can see down at the bottom of my screen is where it actually showed up. And same, we go to the properties. We're in our timer here, and I go over to properties, and you see the name, and it's going to be splash form timer. Okay, that's what that's going to be called. And what I want to do is, you can see it says enabled. Double click that, set that to true. And then this interval is in milliseconds. So if I want to set this for 3 seconds, it's 3,000. Okay, so, it's 3,000 milliseconds. So that equals 3 seconds. And I could change it to 5 or whatever, but I think 3 is just fine. And before I go any further, I want to go and clean up this little bit of a mess here that I made. Okay, so I'm going to delete this. Okay, and of course I'm going to get an error right there. And that's fine. Just take it out of there. Okay, now I want to go back to my form. I want to click on this. And now, if I click away, I click the form and I go to my events, I get all of these different events. But if I go down to the bottom and I actually click on the splash form timer, and then I go to events right here with the lightning bolt, you see that the only one that I have is the tick. And so that's really the only thing that I actually need right now. And what I did is I did it again really too fast. I double clicked inside this box and it created the splash form timer tick. Okay, so when we go back to our form, you can see here's my event now, splash form timer tick. Now, what I have to do is refer to that, and I have to say, is it in there? Splash form timer right here. And I want to go to enable. Okay, and this I have to set to false. Okay, and the reason is because previously we set it to true. Okay, so when we go to here and we're looking inside this is what I'm talking about, this enabled, we've set to true. But if I don't, what'll happen is it will continuously come on every 3 seconds. It'll turn itself back on and on. Okay, so that's why I'm setting that one now to false. Okay, I'm going to leave that and go away for a minute. Close this. Hopefully I can close this. I'm frozen. Okay, so if this pops up, it's the first thing that happens. And then after that, I'm going to get this form. And what is this form called? We know that this form's name is form product maintenance. Okay, so when I go back to my code here, what happens is I actually want to open up that form. I want to create a new version of that form. And so if we say new, what did we call it now? FRM, yeah, we want the, what's this one here called? What did I just say it was actually called? Okay, form, this one here, just go grab the name. It'll be easier. Copy, go back in here. And I want this to be just like this. Okay. And this is because I'm using the keyword new. I want to instantiate this new version of the form. Okay. And obviously I don't just leave it that way. This is going to be called the same exact thing. So I'm going to copy this and then say form FRM product maintenance. Now, I can't really do this because it exists in two different ways, right? But let's look at this for a minute and see what's really happening. This is my actual class, right? I'm trying to get this to open that up. And so, of course, all my syntax is looking rather ugly here, right? Because which one's the product product maintenance? Which one is the class? Kind of hard to tell by looking at this, right? And so if I take this out and I'm going to just call this maybe start form. Okay, what happens here? Now, keep something in mind. I'm only calling this start form just to distinguish between the two. And, you know, this really is the same thing as this. This is the class that I'm trying to create or instantiate. Okay, so when I go to this and let's say I click on the exit button, you know that this is the actual object that I'm trying to create in this splash form. So that's why it looks like this. But when I get to here, it's very confused. So what are my potential fixes? The first one I would think right off the bat would be, can I use this, select this first one? Can I do that? And is that going to change anything? Well, yeah. Of course it is, because I have to refer back to that particular file. So I have to use it inside my file. It's the only way that I can refer back, and it knows that this is the class and that this is the new object. Okay. So now the next thing I want to do is say start form dot show. Okay. So I want to show that. Now, this is talking about the next form in the future, right? My actual start form. This is my splash form that I'm coding in, but after 3 seconds, I want my product maintenance form to appear. But then what happens? I actually want my splash form to disappear. So we're going to say this current object is this splash form. I want it to hide. Just like this. And I don't know why it populated the 0, but I want this form now to hide. Now, this is not the final thing. There is an error in here. There's something that we still have to fix. So the one thing I do have to do now is change the first thing that we see. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to go to program. Reason being is because this is now what I want to open up and see. Okay. And what might be a problem here? Okay, think about it for a second. Well, one thing off the top that we know is a problem is the fact that I had this persistent error all throughout the rest of my code. Okay, and now you're seeing that it's actually creating more issues because where else did I have this? This is the in here, and let's go back to solution. Let's go to splash form. Do I have anything in here that might be causing me some real headaches? Okay, so let's go back. Let's keep looking. Okay, is there any problems? No, I don't see any in here yet. Okay, so remember, you know, if you make that change, it's going to be a problem for you. Okay, so I had to take it out because I would have probably never found that error given what was going on. But ultimately what I was trying to do is get to this one. So it was showing me this error and I was looking at all these different, should I have different usings? But the answer really is no. And it was because I made that one mistake at the very beginning. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and do a save all. And then I'm going to build this without debugging. Okay, and let's just see what happens. Start without debugging. It takes a while. 1001, 1002, 1003, and there we go. It turns on perfectly the way I want it to. And if I go to add product, this all seems to work. If I delete a product, does this work? Everything still seems to work just fine. Okay, but I think I could do a little bit better with that splash page. Let's look at this. What are maybe some of the things I'd want to do? Okay, one, it's pretty boring, but it does what it's supposed to do. But I think I could dress it up a little bit better. But before I dress that up, I want to show you there is one issue. And this time I'm going to do start debugging. Okay, 1001, 1002, 1003. Okay, this all turns on, all this stuff works, but watch as I hit the close button. When I select this, close, it's actually still running. Okay, so that's going to be an issue for me. So I'm going to stop that and let's go resolve that. So I'm going to go back to the form here. I'm going to click on it, go to my properties, and I'm looking for form closing. Okay, when I select that, I'm looking for form closing. And of course, I'm looking in the wrong spot. It should be in the events. So what do I see? Form closing. Okay, and if I select that, I get nothing. Okay, but you know, I want that to be form closing. And I could do form closed or form closing. But I'm going to do form closing with the ing. Double click that and you can see that it's adding this to the bottom. And here I'm going to do application dot exit. Okay, and that's a method call with a semicolon. And I'm going to save that. Now I'm getting this really bizarre error. And again, it has to do with this book product. The fact that originally I named it book product. Okay, and the issue really here is that there's something in my solution. So if I go into here And this is a big risk that I'm taking. If I go into here and I do a rename and I say, get rid of book, let's see what happens. Okay, so it seems like nothing happened so far. I'm happy about that. And I'm going to do a build solution. Okay, and you see it says could not copy, could not copy. So it's rejecting what's ever going on here. Okay, so I've got the Solution Explorer open. Actually, the way I'll do this is I can go to this project, go all open folder and file explorer. I go to bin, I go to debug, and you can see what's happening here. It is still looking for this book product maintenance execution. Okay, and so what I'm actually going to do is shut it down. I'm going to shut the project down and then open it back up again. So again, I've restarted it, but you see that this problem still continues to persist. So, I'm going to go and open up that folder again, bin, and you see that it keeps doing this. And one of the things I'm going to do is I'm actually going to delete it. And if I break the application, I don't really care. And it won't let me actually do it, okay, because I've got the file open. So if I skip this and I go back in to here, close this down, and hopefully it'll let me delete it now. Yes, try again. Maybe it's just, we'll see. So you'll notice here, one of the problems is, again, I've got this thing named book again. So if I take this out of the project file, let's see what happens. It says try again, can't action be completed because folder file is open in another program, which is strange to me because I know that it's not. I've closed it down. Try again, try again, try again. It doesn't want to let me do it. Okay, so I'm getting all these roadblocks ahead of me. So even that didn't work, and it won't let me rename this. What else could it be? I've gone into bin, I've got debug, I've got, book under there. Will it let me delete that? No, it doesn't let me delete that either. So I can chase my tail all day long on this. What about object, debug? You can see there's reference to it here, product, an executable there. Why don't I go in and see if I can delete this? It's going to let me. Okay, that looked a little bit hopeful. I'm hoping I didn't completely break my application. Can I delete this one? Nope. And nope. Okay, I can't delete that. I can't delete that. What else can I do? What about properties? I'm okay there. Let's go out. Let's see if I can rename this. Okay, is it going to let me? No, and it says it won't. So, the moral of the story here is make sure you label your project properly from the beginning. Because if I go into here, not even my release, but if I go into bin and debug, it still has this executable. Okay, and it doesn't let me get rid of that either. Okay. And if I open up the actual project, let's see, I've got the project open. So maybe if I go and I do it this way, is it going to let me delete it now? No, it just doesn't want to let me do it. Okay, so I think what I have to do, this is my last thing that I'm going to try. I'm going to turn it on. And I'll move it over. And I'm going to do a rebuild, build solution. How about clean solution? So I'm going to try one last final thing. I'm going to go to debug or sorry, not debug, to build. And I've got build solution, rebuild solution, clean solution. But I'm going to do this one, build product maintenance. Okay, so let's do this. Build product maintenance, and let's see what's happening. And again, it's still saying could not copy, and it goes through this 10 times. And I don't really think it tells you why, other than it's being used by another user. Okay, so what I wanted to do was actually overwrite that exe file. Okay, let's see if I can overwrite that. So if I go to project and I go right down to the bottom, it says product maintenance properties. And I'm in this application thing here. And you can see right here, it says assembly name. Okay, so I want to change that. My namespace, I want to change that and see if that'll work. Do I want to do anything else in here? Do I want to browse for an icon of any kind or just stick to the default? See if I can find an icon. I don't think I can find an icon. Not that I care. Okay. And now let's go to publish. And where's this going to publish this to? Now, if I wanted for this to be available online only, I could check this, but the application is available offline as well and launchable from the start menu. Okay. What other things that what could we have in here? Manifest in the default setting. Create an application without a manifest. So forget about that. A resource file, not going to worry too much. Startup object. Not going to worry about that either. Okay. I'm going to go over to here where it says prerequisites and it says create startup program to install prerequisite components. Just going to click off that and see what happens. And I'll hit OK. And then options and deployment, use.deploy file extension. I'll turn that off. Open deployment web page after publish, turn that off. Hit OK. So I'll go back out here and choose where I want it to end up going. And in my case, I think I will choose just the desktop. Okay. Actually, I don't want it to go to desktop. What I want it to do is actually go into the same project file as the project that we're in. So if I go to here, open file folder and get this in my bin here, I'm going to actually copy that, go to here and paste that. And I don't know for sure if this is going to work, but let's do a publish now. And I get an error here. The application should not be published to the same folder where the build is produced. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll actually go to here and let's just go to let's go to here. See if it'll do that. And I'll hit my, okay, it didn't seem to pick up where I wanted it to go. It doesn't like that either. One more time. Okay, so right here. Publish now. See if that'll do it. Okay, I've got all this stuff in here and let's go check and see what happened. So it's not in debug, it's in here. And do I see it in here? Not really sure I see the executable. So this could just be a pure rabbit hole. Okay, and okay, check this out. So product maintenance.application. So I'm going to double click on that and it says do an install. It asked me. And so we get this welcome page and it's opening up. Can I add a product? C#, blah, 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 him too, and $10, save. That seems to work. Okay. And let me exit this for a minute because now I'm curious to know on my desktop where this thing ended up. Because I've got a whole ton of junk on my desktop, right? But that's not where I saved it. So let's go and open this up one more time. Okay, there. It actually saved the last thing that I put in, I believe. Let's try one more. Software, C++. $100. Okay, C++ is in there, exit. Let's turn this back on. And there, both of them work. Okay, so it saved it. Now, the good thing is with this product, I can take it anywhere. Now, what happens if I hit this X? It shuts off my application just like I wanted to before. So, the last piece of this video, we got some more to do actually, but it really be very careful with the way you name your project files, because it's an absolute nightmare to try and go and change that after. So why don't I actually just go back into the code, make a few more mods to the splash page, and then I'm going to go through all of this and save it to my desktop. Okay, so let's give that a try. Okay, so I'm back to my splash page. I'm going to select it and then go to properties. And there's a couple things I do want to change. First off, I want to change, where is it? Auto scale mode. Okay, so this auto scale mode, what I want to do is actually set that to none. And that's so that it scales exactly the same on every computer or every machine. Okay. What about my font? Do I want to modify my font a little? Let's hit this little thing and change, what kind of a font would be better? Maybe this, Lucid Bright. Let's just do Lucid Bright. I don't entirely care. I'll leave it to 72 and I'll leave it to black as well. Hit OK. I'm happy with that. Now, what about my start position? Center screen. I'm good with center screen, but I think I want to change the opacity on this thing. I don't want it to be 100%. So I'm going to change it to 85. And that's just going to make it a little bit more invisible. What about text align? Where is my text align? Okay, my guess is it's somewhere under font. No, where would text align be? Well, you can't get text align by selecting the form. You actually have to select the text. And so I've got, these different options. I can put it down here. I can put it in the middle, and I can also just kind of try and move it around. Is there anything else I might want to do? And I think really the answer is no. I'm probably satisfied with that. So let me go ahead and run this and see what it looks like. Okay, start without debugging. Okay, let's do that one more time because it actually popped up on my other monitor, and the reason was because I wasn't maximized on this screen. So you can see now it's a little bit more opaque. The font has changed. Everything works just fine. Okay, so let's go back out and save this to the desktop. Okay, so I was in product maintenance properties. I get this thing here and I'm going to select my desktop. So just put it to there. Open. What were some of the other things? Prerequisites. I wanted to turn that off. Create startup program to install prerequisite components. This is all this runtime stuff. So if I check on that, I can pick one of these if I really want to. Okay, but in this particular case, I'm just going to turn it off. Okay, so hit OK. Options, deployment, all this stuff is just fine to me. Yeah, and actually right here, create a desktop shortcut. That's the one I want to try. Don't know for sure if it's going to work. I can put all the publisher stuff in there if I want to, but so far I'm just going to hit OK. Okay, and I've got my location, I've got my build, I've got my application. It's all fine to me. And if I wanted to put an icon on there, wonder what I can do for that. Well, the issue that I have here is that it's an actual icon file and I don't have any stored, so I can't put that there. So I'll close that out and leave it without that. Okay, build. Okay, all that stuff is there. Do a code analysis, but I don't think I need to do that right now. Anyway, so I'm going to do a publish. It says down here, build 1 succeeded, 0 failed. Publish 1 succeeded, 0 failed. So if I go out to here, where is it? It looks like it's right here. Okay, so let me double click on that. You cannot start application product maintenance from this location because it already installed in a different location. So I hit details and it'll tell me where it is. And that's fine. Okay, that's fine with me. I don't have to have that. Okay. So what I could end up doing is probably going in and deleting it, but I just don't care to. I just wanted to show you that's how you maybe would go about doing all that. All right. So anyway, what I want to do is just kind of end this video off. And, you know, we've gone over a couple things. We've done the object oriented stuff, and we've added we've done the inheritance with that. We've inherited from one base class to 2 child classes, which is really good. And we've added this splash page. Okay, so it's a lot for this particular video, but not as long as some of my other marathon videos. So anyway, I'm going to knock off the video there, and I'll see you in the next one next week.